Hi, I'm Lynn Festa. I'm an occupational therapist and coach who supports highly sensitive people and those experiencing burnout. On this channel, I explain what it means to be an HSP and share practical, evidence based strategies to help you flourish with this trait while also preventing or recovering from burnout. Today, I'm going to start a two-part series on burnout, what I sometimes call burnoutitis, because it doesn't ever happen overnight. It's much more like an overuse injury that kind of builds up slowly over time, if you've ever experienced that. Because at first you can kind of shake it off, ignore it until you can't. From an occupational therapy perspective, burnout isn't just about being tired. It actually affects our ability to engage in meaningful occupations, our work, our roles, our routines, and our relationships, whatever occupation you show up in. Now, Christine Maslock and Michael Leader have been studying burnout since the 1980s, and they define burnout as a prolonged response to chronic emotional and interpersonal stressors. They describe three key dimensions to burnout. The first one is exhaustion, feeling like you have nothing left to give, especially emotionally. Second one is cynicism, becoming detached from your work, the people you serve, or your team. And the last one is ineffectiveness, feeling like you're not doing your job well, even when you are capable. Now, in simpler terms, burnout can just be called the opposite of engagement, which is exactly what we aim to support in occupational therapy: participation, meaning, and purpose, and functioning to the best of our abilities. In 2019, the World Health Organization actually included burnout in the ICD-11 as an occupational phenomenon, chronic stress that has not been successfully managed. They refer to it as a syndrome and not a medical diagnosis. And we always want to rule out anxiety, mood, or trauma-related disorders from burnout. Also, something important to bring up is a related concept is something called moral injury. That's when you know what your clients, patients, or students need, but you can't provide it because of productivity demands, lack of staffing, or systemic barriers. And for many helping professionals, and especially highly sensitive people, that can be the most painful part. And I also want to be very clear. It is not okay to accept unreasonable demands, to tolerate bullying of any kind, to be exploited by an intimidated boss, or to be chronically accept unfair pay. That is you not being tough enough. That's a systems problem. Way beyond the scope of this, but I want to say that. Now, burnout comes from both intrinsic and extrinsic factors. Intrinsic factors include things like perfectionism, over-functioning, being early in your career, and let's be honest, being a highly sensitive person. Now, HSPs bring incredible strengths: our depth of processing, our wonderful empathy, our sense of responsibility, and that attention to detail. But those strengths can also make you more vulnerable to taking on too much, difficulty setting boundaries, saying no, absorbing that emotional load, and maybe holding yourself to impossible standards. So you may be doing the work of two people and not even realizing it. How many of us, once we leave a situation that burned us out, were replaced by two people? Now, extrinsic factors include rigid systems, a lack of control, productivity quotas, almost impossible at this point, understaffing, are all examples of that moral injury that I spoke about. From an OT lens, burnout is a person, environment, occupation mismatch. Too many demands, not enough resources, and not enough restoration. So that's for part one. In part two, I'm going to walk you through the 6 areas where burnout shows up so you can start identifying what's coming from within you and what's coming from your environment. Because once we can name the mismatch, we can start to address it. You don't have to live with burnoutitis. So start to think about what may be intrinsic to you or extrinsic to you as we go into part 2. Thanks, and I hope this was helpful.